Hello, scrufftards, vatniks, degenerate, freaks, geeks, nerds, and everyone else. Welcome to the Warzone. I'm Scruffy, and this is Scruffy Tales. And we are gonna take a look at Kursk and the south of Pokrovsk. We'll also take a look at Kupiansk, uh, but primarily Kursk and Pokrovsk, because Russia is advancing towards and within some important towns in Kursk and south of Pokrovsk. So let's take a look. Right, starting off at Kursk using Andrew Perpetua's map. If we, this is on the 17th, a couple of days ago. As you can see, God damn it, my throat. We have a lot of Russian artillery aimed here in Russian-controlled area. So Ukraine is well and truly pushing back in this area. They pushed. Remember, Russia pushed into this part of Ukraine, crossing the border. Tactical decision, not operational. They wanted leverage on the Ukrainians in these woods, so it made sense to move through the cover that was, but Ukraine has since then pushed them back. And now we're having Russian shelling here in what should be Russian-controlled positions. So Ukraine has well and truly moved into this area. And this is a couple of days ago. And here you have, take a look at Ukrainian bombardment all over the place. Same thing up here. This is, of course, where the North Koreans allegedly made a big push. So this is where Russia made a massive push a couple of days ago, as well as down here. And if we move forward a couple of days, you can see how Russia has moved in and now secured Novoivanovka. We even have Russian flag at the edge of town. So now the main fight is in this forested area here. And as you can see, it's sparsely wooded, so Russia appears to be in full control of the woods, and Ukraine has been forced back to Leonodivo. At the same time, Russia has gained control of this wooded area here, a valley, and appears to be contesting the rest of the valley down to this lake. So Russia is pushing strongly in Kursk, relying on North Koreans as meat waves, soaking up Ukrainian fire, revealing Ukrainian positions, and then I suspect the Russians come in a second wave to bring in the more elite units, veterans. They know what it's like to fight. They know the tactics. They're used to coming under fire. They understand the threat from drones. And since they have used the North Koreans as bait and as cannon fodder, they can then move in accordingly and deal with Ukrainian positions as best as possible. Cruel tactics, but they appear to be working, and I mean, it is what we expected to happen. And it seems as if Ukraine is struggling with this new turn of events here in Kursk. Moving down to, we're gonna take a look here as well in Kharkiv, north of Kharkiv, and here at Lubok. If we take a look a couple of days ago, take a look, Ukrainian drones targeting Russian positions here. So Ukraine is well and truly within Lubok, trying to take control of this southern part of the town. My guess is that, I mean, we've seen fighting ongoing all over the middle here. So Ukraine is pushing in here and doing their best to control this part of town. It's slow going, but it's still a Ukrainian push into Lubok. Moving forward, we can see Lukiansk being hit by Ukraine, and up around this farm, we have Ukrainian drone attacks on Russian positions. So Ukraine is pushing out their attacks, not focusing solely on these woods, or this. They are attacking around the woods, away, and tells us the focus of the drones. They're not now focusing on targets here, they're focusing away. So Ukraine is pushing their advantage in this area. Moving down to Kupiansk, and we can see that going back a couple of days, how Russia is advancing down here and here. So we're moving into this valley towards this lake, and they're probably gonna try and continue down the valley and following the creek here through Borivska and Drivka towards Novoplatonivka would be my guess, being able to outflank Seleny High as they're doing that, and pushing in along this valley here towards Lozova. And they moved south from this valley and taken over some windbreaks, closing in on Zaruzhove. And at the same time, you can see Ukraine is putting pressure on Russian positions south of these woods. This is a hill, a small hill, surrounded by creeks. You have rivers and a small shallow valley surrounding this forest. So the forest is on the high ground, surrounded by natural moat, and now Ukraine has taken control of it. They're now shelling Russians south of it. So this is a strong defensive position for the Ukrainians, and they're now trying to push out from this area, pushing south to link up with troops in Zaruzhove. That is the situation here south of Kupiansk. Russia is advancing in this area. Potentially, Ukraine will try and push southward along the Oskil River towards Zaruzhove. And moving down to Mirnorad and Pokrovsk, we can see that Russia is moving up here. They're putting down flags in Selenivka. They're moving closer to Ulakli and Constantinople. We have rivers and canals in the way between the Russians and Ulakli. Question is if they will be able to cross, or if they will just follow dry land towards Constantinople. Constantinople is on the southern end of the Sukiali River. This is the Sukiali River, and Constantinople is south of the river. Ulakli is north. So it would be natural for Russia to move up towards Constantinople, and in doing so, as you can see, they will cut the main supply route leading to Kurakhove. So holding Constantinople will be crucial to ensure supplies reaching Kurakhove. There really aren't any other crossing points that well, maybe here. I missed that point actually previously. Okay, so we have that crossing point at least. But then again, it leads down here. Yeah, maybe. But still, it's a narrow point where bringing in a lot of logistical trucks through such narrow dirt tracks, it's gonna mess up the road itself, and it's gonna slow everything down. Ukraine really needs proper roads to bring in the volumes they need to support the fighting in Kurakhove. So Constantinople will be a big blow to the Ukrainians if they lose it. And Russia will also be in striking distance of Andrivka. It's not a major town. Yes, zooming in, you can see it's a town, right? But it's not a huge urban cluster. That would rather be Constantinople. No, what town was I thinking of? I'm confusing it with someplace else, I think. As you can see, this is not the massive obstacle you might think it is. It's still an obstacle, located in low ground, surrounded by high ground. You got the canal, some buildings. It's going to be, it's a good defensive position since it has all these buildings. But it's not a major settlement. So if Russia comes up this way, Ukraine could potentially be in a lot of trouble. Interestingly, if we move up to south of Pokrovsk, we can see that Russia has mainly made some attempts to attack over here. They pushed into Dashinsk. What's the name of the town? Dashinsky. Trying to assault here, trying to reach this compound, whatever that is, a farm or a warehouse factory, trying to come across these fields. Other than that, yeah, they pushed out here, south of Pishane, like we talked about the other day. Nothing strange about it, but primarily they've secured all of this, trying to reach Novolevenivka and Ukrainka. You can see here how they've been trying to assault in this direction. If we head on over to Mayakovsk 73 and move down here, here you can see how Russia's tried to move in on Ukrainka from this position. They moved down towards Novolevenivka. And and we also have a slight push out of Soria here. So they are pushing in towards Andrivka from the south and closing in up here. So remember that we were talking about that potential pincer move from the north towards Andrivka. Kind of looks as if that's what's going on, that this is the focus at the moment. Not so much up here, but mainly here, pushing in on Novo-Olenivka and then Yazanove, and from there, causing trouble for the Ukrainians with narrowing the gap here at Andrivka, and that could force the Ukrainians down here to fall back eventually. My map, as you can see, Russia has pushed up into Selenivka. They're coming up south here towards Constantinople, moving along these windbreaks here. They are in a position to push on towards this town. They need to push into these windbreaks here and cross these fields. See how that goes. And here you have the small town of Andrivka and this crucial road network leading all the way to Kurakhove. And then you have the push here out of Pushkina, the push from Pushkina towards Ukrainka and Novo-Olenivka. So if they can come in this way, kind of open territory here, so maybe not primarily through here, but here you have windbreaks all the way leading up to Novolevenivka. Russia has already pushed into the northern parts of town, and from here they can continue down towards Ukrainka. They can move on westwards towards Novo, that town. But coming down this way, taking these two towns, seems to be the main goal up here at the moment. This is the main focus, taking these two towns and then moving on to Yasenove, that I have not highlighted for some reason. But coming through here towards Yasenove, and then you have it's a narrow. Let's see here if we can highlight it for us all. So, Jesus. Coming down like so, right? And then coming up through here. As you can see, it's a narrow choke point, and if they can push up into Andrivka, well, of course, then they've cut the supplies to Kurakhove. And then what are the logistical options in this gap? Not that many. No roads that are really leading west to east, right? So if they can come down this way and can take here, all of a sudden, logistics are effectively cut. Then you have to rely on trucks to somehow make it through all these open fields, and tracked vehicles will be needed to move effectively through the mud and what have you. So if they can push into Andrivka from the south and grab Yasenova, maybe push south into the windbreaks here, all of this area here will lose logistics effectively, and then they will run out of ammo, run out of food and water, run out of fuel. Something as simple as batteries for all their equipment. They will run out of batteries, and they will have to abandon all of this if Russia can push into Yasenova and Andrivka, and then logistics, they're cut, more or less. You can drive through all these open fields, but trucks will get bogged down. You will be easy targets for drones, and it's not gonna be fun. I mean, yes, maybe this creek here, this valley will be used, but then Russia will obviously aim artillery and flood this area here with drones to prevent those vital logistics from getting through. And at Kursk, the main assault, the main combat going on is, of course, within Novaya Ivanovka and up here in this valley here, where we have seen the Russians pushing in. And, well, I'm wrong here. We should have Russians further out. Let's adjust that. Here we go. This will take some... Oh. This is a tedious process, but, you know, it is what it is. And now you're going to have to join me in the tedious process. Why won't that connect? There we go. Sorry for this. But you're just going to have to deal with it. So something like that, right? Ukraine has this portion, and Russia, this should, let's do it like so, and remove and erase. Away you go. And Russia has, of course, grabbed all of this. I'm gonna have to adjust this a bit more later on, and something like that. I think that's pretty accurate. So this is the situation at the moment in Novaya Ivanovka. Russia has pushed through, and remember, Ukraine was pushing hard for only like a week ago, pushing really hard, and was pushing into this area, almost had this patch of woods, and now Russia has made a big counter move here. Wonder what happened, if it was just... if Ukraine ran out of supplies, or if Russia just overwhelmed them, or what happened. Ukraine is down at Leonodovo. This is the space Russia needs to cross if they want to get in here. So Leonodovo is protected by wide open spaces. So we might see a big North Korean push into Leonodovo in a couple of days. You never know. And of course... this is where the North Koreans came across the fields, entered the valley here and the woods, and now it appears as if Russia is pushing down this way and closing in on Kurakhove. And this, I think, as you can see, you have the name here, but it's down here where we can see buildings. So I believe this is Kurakhove. And so Russia needs to cross some open spaces and get into these woods in order to move on towards Kurakhove. We'll see if they will focus on grabbing this valley and these tree lines first, and maybe coming in from the north before they begin a big push here. Maybe trying coming here to cut these units off and then apply pressure on this location. We'll see what happens. But quite clearly, the North Koreans have, at least for the moment, turned things around in favor of the Russians. And this I'm not so worried about, but this is more important. This is a vital town. Whoever controls Novaya Ivanovka is essentially in control of the offense here in Kursk. If Ukraine holds Novaya Ivanovka, you can push in towards Lenishliak and threaten Yubimovka. You can isolate Russians down here, and you can continue northward and what have you. Now that Russia has Novaya Ivanovka, they can push in towards Leonodovo. They can launch assaults along this road here, straight at Malaya Loknia, like they've tried in the past. They have secured passageway south, so Russia can continue operations down here and so on. So losing Novaya Ivanovka and being pushed out of this forest is, to my humble opinion, more important for Russia than establishing a presence up here. So maybe the North Koreans here have acted as a diversion, drawing a lot of Ukrainian attention, a lot of drones flying over here, hitting targets instead of aiding in the push down here. So that could have been what happened. You moved in with the North Koreans here to draw fire, draw artillery, draw drones, and then Russia could more easily advance here with less enemy fire raining down on them. Now, I just want to talk about this as well, some other stuff. Now, this, for instance, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty reports that Russian drones have been targeting individual Ukrainians in the Kherson region. Up to 40 drones a day have been spotted hunting civilians, cars, and cyclists in a terror tactic that has been called human safari. So FPV drones are used not to hunt down Ukrainian soldiers or Ukrainian armored vehicles, but individual Ukrainian citizens. And the image there is a FPV drone flying straight in towards a guy on his balcony in a multi-story building. That military significance? None. Pure terrorism. Right? Now, when they've been bombing civilian buildings in the past, they have said, oh, it's because they're hiding military equipment there, or NATO generals are hiding in the basement. Here they are attacking people on bicycles, cars, civilians having a smoke on their balcony. Clearly not trying to reach a secret hideout in the basement. They are attacking civilians. Terrorism. War crimes. Approved by the Russian military, by Russian high command, by the Russian regime. Russia is a terrorist state. Pure and simple. And then it's funny if we move on from that horrible topic to the topic of why Russia invaded, to denazify Ukraine. Well, Putin has just recently came out and said that the Jews are a threat to the Russian Orthodox Church. The guys who are fighting Nazis apparently have some issues with Jews. And if we move on to the Times of Israel to see what they say about it, I'm no fan of Israel, by the way. I don't endorse anything that they're doing to the Palestinians whatsoever, but it's kind of interesting to take a look what a Israeli newspaper has to say about it, right? And so they report that President Vladimir Putin, the man who has invaded Ukraine to hunt down Nazis, and Nazis obviously don't like Jews, he now has used anti-Semitic rhetoric, accusing people, including ethnic Jews, of tearing apart the Russian Orthodox Church. And the Russians, they take issue with this since the Council of Europe recently labeled the church as a propaganda tool of the Kremlin, and several European countries have expelled church officials due to security concerns. Essentially, Russia uses priests as spies, kind of like how every nation uses diplomats and ambassadors as spies. Russia has just decided, hey, why not use priests as well? And some countries, they don't like that, and has, because of this, thrown out a bunch of priests, just as you throw out diplomats when you find out they are up to no good. And Putin then has said, these people that are attacking the church, they are not atheists. They are absolutely faithless people, godless people. Well, ethnically, many of them are Jews. Huh! But you haven't seen them visit any synagogue. Okay, so they're not real Jews, but they are ethnically Jews, right? Important to point that out, that they are ethnically Jews. And they're not even real Jews. So you have to pinpoint and hunt down the fake Jews. Fake news. Yeah, so, and then he added that these opponents of the church were neither Orthodox Christians, because you don't want to piss off the white nationalist Christians in the United States, nor Muslims. Important to add, I guess, that Muslims are not involved in this, because Russia is struggling with enough explosions across the country as it is with Ukraine. So they don't need any more, I guess, by pissing off the Muslim community. He then says, these are people without kin or memory, with no roots. They don't cherish what we cherish, and the majority of the Ukrainian people cherish as well. Okay. And then, of course, people were quick to criticize and point out that this was a kind of anti-Semitic statement, and pointing out parallels to the Soviet state anti-Semitism under Joseph Stalin, when the Kremlin persecuted Jews and accused them of being rootless cosmopolitans. Okay, so these people, many of them ethnically Jews, are without kin or memory, with no roots. And the previous Soviet Russian persecution of Jews accused them of being rootless. And then you have this, they interview a guy, I forgot who he is, but his name is Goldschmidt. This is just one example of Putin's regime's explicit and virulent anti-Semitism, which has intensified following his 2022 invasion of Ukraine. And this is all reminiscent of Stalin's fight against cosmopolitanism and the Doctor's Plot of 48 to 53, the brutal anti-Semitic campaign in the Soviet Union, resulting in the arrest and killing of much of the Soviet Jewish leadership in the Soviet Union. And it is kind of interesting, isn't it? So we clearly have Putin here pointing out that Jews are responsible for attacking the Russian church, telling Russians of faith that ethnic Jews are a problem. The wrong kind of ethnic Jews, right? Not the Jews that often visit synagogues, but, you know, the ethnic Jews that don't. They are the problem. Jews are a problem. I mean, this is the guy that entered Ukraine to hunt down Nazis, denazify Ukraine, but he himself has a big issue with Jews being a nuisance to Russia. Weird. And I mean, it's kind of funny because, you know, when the Nazis back in Germany started out, they kind of went into Czechoslovakia, they stepped into Poland and elsewhere, and, you know, kind of said, hey, we got a bunch of Germans living in these neighboring countries and they are being harassed, right? So we need to protect them. We need to move in and secure territory in other countries to prevent ethnic Germans from being persecuted and harassed. Sound familiar with what happened in the Donbass, maybe? I don't know. And then, of course, the anti-Semitic rhetoric in Germany spun out of control, and then no one cared what happened to the Jews when they were rounded up and shipped away on trains to camps. So here we have Russia. They enter another country to help ethnic Russians from being harassed and persecuted. This then evolves into a full-time invasion. Weird how this seems to have happened back in 1939 as well. And now, just like in the 30s in Germany, we see, you know, the Jews being explicitly pointed out as a threat to Russian society and the Russian church. Not the Orthodox Christians, not the Muslims, not atheists either, but specifically ethnic Jews. Right? And you need to be in the Donbass to help ethnic Russians from being harassed and stuff like that. I don't know. You tell me that there are you can't ignore the similarities, right? That's just, you can't ignore the similarities. And if you're a Vatnik, I would love for you to try and defend Russia and Putin on this topic without coming across as a far right-wing lunatic that dislikes Jews, and you are definitely not waving your hand in the air in proper old school fascist fashion. So please do that. But yeah, that's Putin's stance on Jews, and I don't know. Seems fishy, doesn't it? That's it. That's all I have for you this time around. I hope you found it interesting. I hope I'll see you in the next one. And as always, go på marsch, Ukraine, and give them hell.